guys, welcome to another episode of Always Making. This is episode 2. If you guys joined us for the first one, thank you so much. It's definitely been a blast so far.
One episode down. Woo.
Yeah, one episode down. All the kinks in the system are still getting worked out.
I thought you were going to say they were worked out. I was like, they are?
They're not worked out. We're still going. But thank you guys for joining us on this show. I'm Derek. This is Christy. We are makers, and we want to share the maker world with you guys and all the people we get to meet and have fun with. So this past 2 weeks since this last airing of our previous show, we have a show coming up that we'll be at. Two shows.
We have two markets.
Two markets.
Yep.
We've been making some new t-shirts. You were messing around with some resin jewelry recently. We were working on some of our vintage frame stuff. You finished another commission since the last episode aired. And that's been kind of what we've been working on as of right now. Big shout out to one of our buddies who just had his art piece put out on 300 Broadway, I think that's right, for Salt Lake City, for the upcoming Craft Lake City.
South, right?
Yeah, they did a
downtown
art installation, and it was really cool to see his stuff get put out into the world in this big, huge billboard looking thing. So that's really cool.
Yep, at Camberland Creations.
Yeah, and I think we're gonna have him on for our next episode. I'm not, don't quote me on that 100%, but I think I've already talked to him.
Has he already gotten too big for us?
Yeah. But I think we have him for our third episode, and we're going to start getting guests in on the show. But this one, again, I kind of just want to give a little bit more of that in-depth look of us and who we are and kind of what drives us and what are some of the tools in our tool bag that we kind of go through. But yeah, so Christy, I kind of introduced what we've been doing the past couple weeks, but I want to give us a little deeper into what you've been working on these past couple weeks.
Yeah, so I just finished another commission, this time for a gentleman in southern Utah who is doing a General Clytus cosplay from Flash Gordon. So the nice part about this commission was I was actually really familiar with all of the pieces of the costume that he wanted. He originally messaged asking about one of my hooded scarves, and then we got to emailing back and forth, and he was talking about his costume, and he was like, well, could you do this tabard piece, and then it would match the hood, and then, well, while you're at it, since, it would be nice if it was all matching, do the robe too. So I kind of got to go back to my wizard robe days a little bit and do a full robe, a sort of tabard, that's what we've been calling it. It's a tabard piece. It's got like two front panels, a back panel that goes over his chest piece that he made. And then a hood that went over the mask that he made. So I cannot wait to see. I haven't seen the fully finished product yet because he's going to add all of the gold trim so that it all matches all of his vest and pieces that he was making. But I can't wait to see it come together because it was really fun. And
the pictures you shared that he shared with you and everything look pretty cool and everything. So we'll maybe cut those into this as well with some of the other stuff so that you guys can see that as well.
Yeah, and we can throw his handle down in the description below as well, so you can check out his cosplay because he's got Instagram as well.
So very cool. All right, so what I want to get into a little bit, do you remember what your first tool was?
Tool.
Like, what did you earn? Like, your money you earned, like, and then went and bought something.
Oh, I bought?
That you bought to, like,
because I was like, my
my
first business was a friendship bracelet business in elementary school that got shut down real fast because apparently the principal said I couldn't take kids' money to make stuff for them, whatever. But I obviously didn't buy those materials. One of the first things I bought had to have been high school, I'm guessing. Well, I don't know, because I started out by using my mom's old sewing machine and upcycling clothing that my friend and I would buy at the thrift store before thrifting was cool. I'm just saying.
This is before the Macklemore song.
Exactly.
That made it very cool.
Because we're old. And I definitely got made fun of for wearing thrifted clothing in high school, so it was not cool at the time. I don't know. What was your first tool?
I would say my first tool was my Canon GL2. I think that would be my first tool because I right away went and did gigs with that camera and was getting paid to shoot live concerts with that camera.
Yeah, I remember that camera well.
Yeah, that was like a huge purchase. I got myself into trouble with a credit card on that one for sure. Probably paid more, even though I got it crazy discounted and everything because I worked at Best Buy at the time. I probably paid more for that camera than I would in interest fees because of that. So people getting started out there, make sure you're aware of how credit cards work. And I mean, I learned my lesson, and that's one of those things. It's a life lesson that you learn and kind of don't do it again as often. And but I would say that was my first tool. And then I think cameras were like my first tools, and then rigging stuff like stabilizers, like filters, extra batteries, chargers. Those all started like trickling in, and then the actual physical maker side of things, I'd probably say when I started working at an old folks home, my first set of Milwaukee M12 tools was, I think, my first like tool purchase. I still have them today. We still use them in the shop. They are over 14 years old, I think. I mean, we've got so many drills and other new tools and things, but those small drills are nice, handy. They're hanging on our pegboard, and they're one of the quick grabs I go for when needing to drill something because it works. It's great, kind of thing. So,
yeah, I think I bought myself one of those like beginner singer sewing kits that came with like pair of scissors, a tape measure, like a marking pencil, like one of those basic. I think that because I was really fortunate in that my family was very supportive of all of my making.
Yeah.
So like my first sewing machine actually that was mine was gifted to me as a graduation present from my siblings.
That actually goes back to my freshman year. Actually, now that you say that, I forget about my sewing kit that I had to buy.
Right, like anytime you take a sewing class, you have to like have one of those kits. And I had one in middle school because I took a sewing class, but my mom bought that one for me. But I bought myself another one.
I would say I don't think I bought my first one in high school. I think my parents did buy that as like school equipment and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I forgot about that like basic kit. I got it at Walmart, and I think it was like $12 or $15, and like comes with the scissors, tailor's tape, little hem ruler, push pin
seam guide.
It was the wrist push pin.
Holder. So they had the wrist one, but I never liked the wrist one, so I got the little tomato.
Yeah,
one
I always use the wrist one. It's just convenient. I've never bought it, but I've always liked the magnetic ones that like you see like seen on TV with like screws and all this stuff. And I mean, it looks functional, and so but I've never bought it to say I would use it. But there are like, we have magnetic dish that sit on the table and hold all our stuff. But yeah. So on that note of it, what would be the tool that you've purchased since that first one that like makes it really hard to like not like remember a time without it, kind of thing? Like, what's that tool?
Oh my goodness. Honestly, this one's feels kind of random, but it is the first quilting ruler that I bought myself.
Oh, okay.
And I use that thing pretty much almost daily. It's a 4-inch by 18-inch ruler, and it's gridded out, and it's got the 1/4-inch grid with the 1-inch, grid lines as well. But that thing comes in handy so often. It's nice and long and sturdy. I can hold it nice and flat when I'm using the rotary cutter, obviously measure things. I mean, like I use it for, not just for quilting, obviously I use it for everything almost every day.
Yeah.
When I cut out the hoods, anytime I cut out fabric, anytime I'm measuring anything.
I thought you were going to say your fabric scissors was going to be the one.
But I would think so, but I go back and forth between fabric scissors, rotary cutter. Like, I love my fabric scissors, but I feel like I'm not married to them. The quilting ruler I use all the time.
Yeah. What size?
It's the 4-inch by 18-inch.
Okay. Yeah. And so I think for me, it kind of falls in the same line. It's one of those ones that like, like people overlook it, but it's marking tools are like huge. And I don't know where I got it from. It just magically appeared in all my tools. So one day I might have got it in a kit of other stuff. I don't know, but it's got a really nice handle on it, and it's got a nice point, but it scratches on metal, it scratches on wood. I can use it to like push in and like make little punches.
Yeah,
in
so
wood.
you punch holes with that thing all the time.
I punch holes with it.
I knew you were going to say ruler because
no.
you're a measure once, cut like 5 times kind of
and
guy.
I get it right every time.
I'm a measure twice, cut once.
Yeah.
No, you don't. That's why you cut like
every
5 times.
It's
Never.
Perfect.
Never.
It's perfect on the first go.
But I'm a measure twice, cut once kind of girl, and I use that ruler constantly.
Yeah, but that all scribe tool, I don't know its official name, but like it is one of those tools that like once I have it and like you started using it and it's right there with you the whole time, I try to buy multiple ones so that I have them, but I go back to the same one all the time because it just has that like perfect little handle that does so much for me and everything.
Yeah, definitely in terms of tools. In terms of machines, I mean, it would be a sewing machine. But
Yeah. And
I couldn't pick one, so.
Oh, yeah, machine-wise, I don't...
I would just say sewing machines, plural.
I think, like, in this past year, the biggest, like, support machine that we have kind of thing has been our large format printer that we purchased. It has done so much for us on so many different things, not just like printing your regular paper. It's done our photography stuff. It's done all our transparencies for screen printing. It does all of our merchandise stuff. And I mean, it was costly for us to get kind of thing. It did take,
it was an investment.
It was definitely an investment, but it has paid for itself like already, like within the first couple shows we did, because it was it's so helpful. Now
well, because we get to print all of our own prints. So all of the prints that we sell at markets, we're printing in house instead of trying to find a third party service to print for us. So it's
the one drawback I would say for people, and it's an EcoTank system, so like it's really nice. It's like
very efficient.
Very efficient. You're not using a bunch of ink. That's what can be very costly on some of these really nice photo large format printer kind of things. But we're very resourceful. So I like to keep that like in the forefront with what we do and look for stuff. But we can experiment with that printer so much because we find paper for so cheap. Like the trick,
hot tip, guys.
Yeah, hot tip on this is like when you're at any thrift store, go through the school supplies and look for paper. People usually put photo paper.
Yeah.
Like I've purchased like stacks of 4x6 photo paper for like dollars and like and large high quality. I think I got some like really nice matte 17 by 11 photo paper by like Hammermill.
I mean, we found like really high quality, like smaller scale poster boards for doing screen printing on. We've found, I mean, all kinds of papers that people like, maybe it's a half a pack, but we can use it.
It's also like fractions of the cost.
Yeah. Like, it's like 50 cents for a pack of like 4x6
and so
paper, photo paper.
One of the nice parts is once you figure out the paper that you really like using, then you start hunting it down on like online, in stores, stuff like that, and you can know what results are going to get. But like till you know what you're looking for and everything, buy cheap paper at thrift stores, because honestly you can experiment and you don't feel like, oh man, I just wasted like a really nice sheet of photo paper that I spent a lot of money on. And you're like, oh, I tried it, it worked great, or tried it and oh, that was the wrong setting on the printer. And then
shoot, now you're going through all these sheets trying to get your settings calibrated and dialed in.
And so that's one of those things that's really a nice like little hidden gem of what we try to find.
Just not at the thrift stores that we go to, because
don't take our supplies. Go to other thrift stores. But yeah, that's one of those things I really wanted to get into, that discussion of tools and the importance and like how it makes our life easier when we do make those like upgrades or those changes, or we find that right tool and go through the motions. Like how long did it like till you got your own sewing machine? Like you were using your mom's sewing machine, but like
so I learned how to sew obviously when I was like I think I was 11, and I was using my mom's sewing machine. Like a 70s Singer, worked fine. It was great. And then, so when I graduated from high school, when I graduated from college, my siblings gifted me a nice Singer sewing machine, brand new. Still have it, still use it, still love it. And then our next sewing machine, you kind of bought, like we bought together technically, but so
when we moved out here,
yeah,
Amazon Prime Day,
I did.
Not
I
a
did
sponsor.
save up and buy my serger though.
Yeah,
that
you
was the
did.
first machine that I bought for myself, and that was when I was in college, when I was doing getting into sewing more, doing a lot more upcycling with clothing, and I don't remember what I paid for it, but it was an investment. Like, I had to save up for it. I did the
they go for around like
research.
300.
It was, I mean, it's the lower end. It's an entry level serger, so it was between 200 and
300,
yeah, it was between
something
200
like
and 300. But yeah, I did my research. I was very intimidated because I'd heard so many people talk about, online, like how hard it is to thread it and how scary sergers are. I freaking love that thing.
Yeah.
I change thread multiple times a day sometimes. Like, I use it constantly. That thing has been a workhorse for me.
Yeah, we've been utilizing the 3D printer to like print you cones because you have that many like serger cones that you use and everything.
Yep.
So your stands and everything, we have like try to organize. And again, organizing art supplies is a feat in itself.
Yeah.
But
It's one thing finding all the supplies, but then trying to figure out how to organize and maintain all of those tools and supplies.
That's something we're still working on.
Yes.
And eventually, I mean, in our older age and everything, like I look at Adam Savage and he's still working on organizing his tools.
Man, to see his workshop in person.
Yeah. That's one of those ones where like there's a lot of people's workshops that are really awesome. We go down the rabbit hole of YouTube and watch different makers and all the different stuff and see how they set up their workspace.
Yeah, I love looking at bloggers who share their like sewing rooms and how they lay out their space. Yeah.
Yeah,
sure.
one of the inspirations for why we do what we're doing here and everything is to share that information with you guys, so that again, we are not the end all be all answer to any of this stuff. We're just another option for people to learn, and hopefully we inspire people to make and continue making stuff as they go on. But yeah, so the sewing machines and like sewing's not all you do.
No, it's just my like favorite thing.
Yeah, I mean the sewing room right now. We're 7 sewing machines, 5 sewing machines.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4.
You have the leather one over here.
5 in the sewing room.
Yeah,
and then there's the leather room,
the cobbler one, like. Again,
and then, I mean, if you count like, the antique.
One. Yeah.
Oh, 6 because I have my grandma's vintage machine. Yeah.
So
that makes like 8 total that we have.
Honestly, too, like one of the things we see all the time, and are always tempted to try and buy one. We like always talk ourselves out of it, but there's tons of sewing machines at thrift stores. Again, going back to the thrift stores and everything, and service on sewing machines. There's like usually every like town has someone who will service sewing machines, so you can buy a sewing machine for pretty reasonably cheap and have it serviced for reasonable like price kind of thing, and have yourself and just start getting at it. I started learning sewing freshman year in fashion tech class, I think is what it was called,
something like that.
Yeah. And so learned sewing and love it, and still to this day mess around with sew hats and everything like that. But it's not my main thing. I usually, if there's something to sew, I'll be like, Christy, can you do this one for me while I do this other stuff? Like I still have.
Well, it's usually just like faster and easier, and I'm usually already on a machine, so
I got a couple pants to hem, everything. But yeah, so with that and everything. What's that dream tool? What's that next like thing you want to add to the arsenal?
I really want an overlocker, the serger that does like lingerie seams and sportswear seams and those flat felled seams. What makes that different than what you have now? Like what it does a different seam finish. So like if you're wearing, so like in sportswear, for example, like a pair of workout leggings, the seam on the side is sewn flat. But it's not like a typical seam where you sew the 2 wrong sides together or 2 right sides together. And then if you want it flat, you would have to like top stitch from the top. It sews the layers together, overlapped, like right side and wrong side together, and does a nice flat seam. You see a lot in swimwear as well. Like I said, lingerie will finish your edges for you in a different way, like with the elastic. Then.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
it would allow me to do more knitwear sewing, and I really like sewing with knitwear. So.
Yeah.
or knit fabric.
And so for people who don't know knitwear, like,
Knit fabric is just like a stretchy fabric, whereas this is woven, so it doesn't have stretch. But a t-shirt is knit, so it has stretch.
so it has stretch. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Simple, easy.
So like it could do something like this, or like this.
For people who are listening to it and not watching,
Right.
it is the seam on the edge of the, or the hem on the edge
hem
of my
of your t-shirt
sleeve and everything.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, you're good. But overlock.
Yeah, like an overlocker. It's a type. It's another basic kind of type of serger, but it's a
Specialty style.
fancy
kind of
one.
thing. Okay. And then like down the line, what, big industrial sewing machine, or not even into that realm of stuff?
I don't even know. I mean, like a long arm quilting machine would be super cool, but I don't have time to do a bunch of quilting.
We also don't have room for a long
No, we don't.
quilting machine.
But they're really cool.
I have seen the ones at like the stores where they have like the tracks that you can do all these crazy things. Those look cool, and I just don't even know where to begin.
I know.
with
I don't know.
using
I mean, it
kind of
probably
thing.
wouldn't get use.
Yeah.
A chain stitch machine would be really fun.
I've wanted to play in the chain stitch world, and the
So that's the type of machine where it does custom, like it almost does like an embroidered chain stitch.
anyone has been to Disneyland,
yeah, that's
and
what I was gonna say.
The names on the back of
When
the
you
Mickey
get your
hats and
name put on
everything,
your Mickey hat,
that's a chain
yeah.
stitch,
But
yeah.
that's a really small scale chain stitch.
Yeah.
Like they have big, like industrial table sized ones that you can do jackets and pillows, and like you can do like bigger stuff. And I
Yeah,
would
there's
want one
some
of
pretty
those.
cool. I don't know any off the top of my head of Instagrammers and social media people who do some pretty cool chain stitch stuff. I've
Yeah.
seen a lot of people at like shows that will take a chain stitch machine with them out at the show,
like,
and they're like
custom
doing
stuff,
custom
yeah.
stuff, and it's almost. I mean, it's kind of like doing like hand embroidery. I mean, that's kind of a way to look at it in a sense.
Yeah.
Because instead of using an embroidery machine and having like you're controlling your fabric and
Yep.
the stitch and like where it goes. And
Yeah,
stuff
which
like
I think is really cool because I feel like there's so much more of an art to it, as opposed to like putting in your embroidery machine, like embroider this for me and like push a button. Like you're the one actually holding the fabric and, you know, basically writing out the name or drawing out the design.
Yeah.
Yeah, manipulating the fabric by hand.
Cool.
Yeah, that, and I mean, there's a laundry list of things I want. Like a laser cutting machine, like a Glowforge type, or like,
Yeah.
I just think we could get into some cool stuff with one of those.
I've been almost purchased a laser cutting engraver machine on a couple occasions, and I just can't seem to like make that final like
Yeah.
push over that edge to pay for one.
Yeah.
It's one of those. It's another form. Like I have a little tiny laser engraver. It's actually like right behind me on the shelf here. It does quarter size laser engraving.
Yeah,
like it's super tiny. It was super fun to play with, but I never saw the products or the things we were like doing, like the utilization quite yet. Like we haven't gotten to a point with some of the stuff we're making where I go, oh yeah, that'd be like really good. And like when I buy a tool, it's usually out of necessity for something. And so it's like, oh, we're in this thing. It's like 3D printer. Like, I guess that wasn't a necessity when I bought it. Yeah, I don't know why, but I mean, it was one of those when I bought it, it was like the price was right. And
Yeah.
like we have
It was like,
utilized
oh, I'm gonna use
that
this, and
thing
we
like
have.
crazy kind of thing.
What's on your list?
Of like the next thing, like kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I probably going back into screen printing. I had a very simple 4-head screen printer system, so I could do multicolor, but it just didn't have the right like micro adjustments to really dial it in. We've gotten really good with our system that we have here, and I love the experimenting aspect of it and like the tinkering side of things. That's with everything we do. Like I
Yeah.
love the tinkering. I love the learning and going through the process with everything we have. But when I do that, it takes time away from everything else we're doing as well. So I focus so hard that way. And then I get to a point where like, okay, I learned that and I'm going to go learn something else. And then I don't touch that thing for a couple weeks, maybe a couple months, but the knowledge is still there. So then when I come back to it, it's there. But I want to increase the like capabilities of what we could do screen printing wise. But I also like in this back of my head, I'm like, we're on such a small scale with our screen printing, that I don't 100% know if I need it like right away kind of thing.
Yeah.
But
you know,
if the right deal comes up, or I find the right kind of thing, or it makes sense at the time, like that's probably the next thing. Cameras always like change, and like I always make adjustments or figure those things out. I mean, if I was saying next camera, I want a 360 camera again.
Yeah.
I destroyed mine on a river trip. Got wet by accident, and never got any of the footage off of that, which is
And it
kind
was
of a
not
bummer.
Waterproof, so obviously.
I mean, it wasn't, but I had it in a waterproof bag. It just happened to get water in it. I think the screen printing would be the next like bigger investment to something, and then like a laser engraver, cutter type of stuff. We need more finishing tools. Like definitely, or like I don't know. There's a laundry list again,
Yeah.
because like I've had them on my list, like sanders and like belt sanders and stuff like that. And
we definitely want a lot more like woodworking tools and
the thing that's kept us away from the woodworking side of things is just having the space to do some of those tools. We've done plenty of wood projects and things like that with the saws and stuff we have, but there's a few finishing things I'd like to have in the arsenal, and then like a welder too, so that we can do metal fabrication.
Oh, a lathe.
And stuff. I know I
still want a lathe.
We'll talk about a lathe. There's a lot of things we want, guys. Sorry about that.
I know.
It's like, oh yeah, this is whoa, what did I drop? Oh, our laminating roller. The thing just fell. But
that's the thing I was thinking about this the other day, is that between the two of us, we're both into so many different like mediums that we have such a variety of tools. And I kind of go back to that like multi-potentialite polymath, type idea, where because we're both into so many different things, we end up like pulling different tools from different mediums to use. And, like
there is that crossover with
everything gets commingled, but in a good way. Like,
yeah, there's tools where I would have never used them for what I was using them for if I didn't have them for something else.
Yeah.
Like, and so, like, if I didn't make that accidental purchase of this to do this thing, I would have never thought they worked here as well. And so there's a lot of this crossover that can make your job, like, smoother, easier to kind of go through with it. And the same thing with, like, going through the different mediums and stuff that we play with, because there are times where like taking this medium and learning what you're doing with this medium helps it apply to this, and it's constantly
absolutely.
But that goes into what I kind of like, we talked about the tools and things that like we were driving for and like get like drive what we do here, but I want to get into where does that inspiration come from, and like where does that like earlier today you were making some flower earrings kind of stuff. And yesterday I was screen printing new t-shirts with it. And so like every day we're in a little different medium, and it's kind of fun to just be down here and like mess around with different stuff. But where does that like morning wake up, I'm going to do this and drive this, besides you've got orders or something.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
that.
Besides the actual work that we do have to get done.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, honestly, the reason I love sewing so much is that my brain really loves problem solving in any form. I love puzzles, jigsaw puzzles, this. I mean, any type
She's a professional puzzler, guys, just so you know.
I mean, I'm not professional yet, but we've done two competitions,
have you
and our
done
team
competitions?
has
And,
won
like-
third place in both competitions. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Shout out Jigsaw Jammers. Okay. Anyways, I love puzzles. My brain loves problem solving. Anything that like uses both half of my brains, right? Or my brains, both halves of my brain, one brain, but like that creative side, that logical side. So the reason I love sewing so much is because I love creating my own patterns and working through that like math and creative and visionary, like imagining, okay, this is how I want this finished 3D garment to look. How do I translate that into a 2D paper pattern? So in terms of being inspired, I mean, there are mornings where I wake up and I'm like thinking about sewing patterns. There's always things I want to make. There's always things I want to sew, whether it's for myself, whether it's for the shop, whether it's for a friend, whether it's for, whoever, whatever. There's always things that I want to make and that I want to make my own, which is what I love about being a maker, is that I can take inspiration, things that I've seen and go, oh, but I would really like to be able to make that in a different material or a slightly different shape. And so then I'll start thinking about it, and then I'll go to bed thinking about it, and then I'll wake up and my brain will be like, oh, okay, if I do this and I change this seam line here and I make this pattern piece look like this, it's so fun to for me to imagine those 2D to 3D, 3D garment, 2D pattern pieces. And I don't know, there's something in that transformation, that the way it comes together, that I love. And my brain loves.
What is the process when you go through that? How does it kind of spark?
Usually, either I see something on Instagram or in a store, see something that I like, that I want to, again, make in my own style, make my own. So I'll see something that I like and I'll think, well, how is that made and how would I make it? How would I make it? Whether it's slightly changing, again, the shape, the pattern, the fabric, whatever. So that's usually what kind of starts the little nugget of an idea. And then from there, it's thinking about, okay, well, how would I change that shape? What pattern pieces would I need? How would this come together? What does the bodice look like? What does the skirt look like if it's a dress? Or what do the different pieces look like? And then how would I draw that out? And how do the pieces actually come together? In what order? I don't know. Does that make sense?
I think to other makers out there, it makes sense, kind of thing for people. And that this is always a struggle as makers. We always will have is people who are not thinking creatively in that same sense. They just don't get it. They just don't understand that where that comes from. And
I think, not everybody has a drive where they see something in a store and think, ooh, I want to make that, but make it different.
Yeah.
Most people are like, oh, I like that. And if it's not exactly what I want, whatever, I'll try it on and buy it anyways.
Yeah. Because, I think both of us go into a lot of stores and markets and stuff, and we don't necessarily see things as the finished product. We see them as supplies. And so
or at least I think we both like to see the potential in things.
Yeah, that's a fair way to put it. But we definitely I think it comes from the film and prop making world and stuff, and the kit bashing side of things. Mm-hmm. And I'm constantly looking at things differently than what they should be used for.
Right.
Because it's oh, what if we do this? There are plenty of things we have purchased that are meant for in a kitchen use, but it's down here being something else kind of thing. Or there's something we're buying oh, we'll buy this, and then it's ends up oh, we'll mesh it around this and use it to create this. This goes back to talking in the last episode about your Funko Pop. We were to make the foam was a fence post expanding foam that we could get at Home Depot in Tupperware.
Yeah.
Most people aren't thinking, oh, I can use these two pieces of Tupperware and a thing of expanding foam.
Probably wasn't the best way to make it, but it worked.
And that's kind of the fun, exciting part about it, because that's what drives me is the constant question and the constant experimenting with what could be you can attest to me randomly in the car or randomly in a store, a thought will come into my head and I'm like, hey, why do you think this is like this? And you go, I don't fucking know.
That's not how I usually respond.
and it's and then it gets into that earworm situation. And then I'm like, well, if I go buy this and I try this and maybe this will work. And then all of a sudden we have all this stuff. we trying this stuff. And it's that constant, I bought, just because it was shredded money. And you can buy it online.
Right,
there's a bag over there.
Yeah.
You could buy it online, and it's decommissioned money, and it gets shredded by the treasury. And you looked at it in the cart, and you're like, "What are you gonna do with that?" I'm like, I don't know yet, but it looks like something I can do something with. So I'm gonna buy
but then you did bring up the point, and we have seen this before. People encase it in resin for different things.
And then I don't know what we'll use it when we encase it in resin, what the point of it, but we'll figure that out when we get to that point. But I don't know. It was
can we turn it into fabric and make a wallet out of it?
Very possible. There's all kinds of possibilities. So that's where that for me, it's I know a lot of people harp on social media and the like use of it, but there are so many creative people, and it is one of those things that I do genuinely enjoy seeing other people. And I don't get the like, oh man, they're got it so bad. I go, man, that's really cool. I want to try that kind of thing. I'm like, I get inspired to like give it a go and see what happens. And like, hey, I might fail miserably at it kind of thing, but at least I tried it, and like, let's go kind of.
Yeah.
There's never been the like FOMO aspect for me. And like, it's like, oh, I'm missing out on like this opportunity. It's like, let's try it. Let's see what happens kind of thing, and see like,
yeah. Well, and
how
I think
can
the
learn.
other side of that too, that people like have an issue with social media a lot of times, is that comparison game. But it's like, and people I'm sure have heard this before, but you can't compare your beginning to someone else's middle.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like, sure, it's easy to see these people who have already put in hours and hours and hours of work making these beautiful finished products. Well, of course, they put in hours and hours and hours of work, but you can get there too. And all you have to do is just start, just try.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
and then keep trying and failing and trying and failing. And then you'll get better and you'll learn things. And then your middle will be someone else's beginning, and they'll be looking at you going, man, they got so good at that.
Well, that's always the thing I preach, and I like to other makers.
Both
when
of us.
like we're at the shows and stuff like that, and seeing like them starting off, and they ask the question or they're nervous about something, and it's like, hey, like just do it. Like, and I understand it's going to be scary. I understand there's going to be a learning curve. There's going to be probably some finances lost kind of thing on some investments on stuff. But until you get out there and do it, you're never going to start. Like, you have to start somewhere with it. And like, there's always this like, hey, maybe tomorrow, or maybe tomorrow. It's like, why not right now? Like, that's where it really comes down to, because we would have not gotten to where we're at if we were waiting for the perfect material to arrive or the perfect tool to show up. We have gone
or
through,
someone else to give us permission or tell us to do
it's
it.
It's okay to do it. Because like we have made bad choices on certain purchases. Like, there are fabrics we've gone and like, that was a bad choice of fabric.
Yeah.
Or that's a material that we've used.
Yeah,
or,
we've definitely
like,
experimented, been like, well, that didn't come out right.
yeah, and that's okay kind of thing, because what we were able to learn and adapt from that has allowed us to make so many different new things and try new stuff. And again, build what we have been building. And like, this is nowhere near complete. I know there's people who I've worked with in the past and shared, and they're like, oh, you've got all the tools. I'm like, yeah, but it's been 18 years of building this up, and it's not done. Like, there's still things like we were talking about, things we want to see, things we want to get to, and like things we inspire to build for the next project. And when those projects come, we can get there kind of thing.
Like when we moved from California to Utah, we sold or got rid of all of our furniture, our bedroom furniture. I mean, we came here with clothes. I mean, some necessities, a couple basic pieces, but really it was my sewing table.
My heat press?
Your heat press. I mean, my sewing machines. Like, we brought our tools.
We
were like, we'll go to the thrift store and buy a thrifted couch, which we still freaking have in our living room. Yeah. That was $30, I think, $40.
30, 40, something like that, yeah.
I mean, like, we still have this beat up couch that we bought at the thrift store.
It's not beat up. It's not.
I mean, it's gotten kind of beat up now because we've had it for a few years and we let the dog on it. But yeah, I mean, like, we
I had to find room to stack like all of our like screw cabinets or storage and everything.
Yeah.
And like, people are like, why are you taking all these bits and bops and everything like that and screws? I'm like, because those things have been collecting for years. And like, I have made those piles and like those organizations to the point where like, I can't rebuild that again.
Yeah, like we can get a new bed, we can get a new TV, we can get like we can get all the
but like the little
all the boring stuff.
The little doodad off of a RC car that I had when I was like 20, like I can't get that part again, but like I can use that part in something else as a prop attachment or things, springs and stuff like that.
My fabric collection that I've been collecting for years, like, and I mean, I got rid of some fabrics. I tried to whittle it down to a couple totes, but it was like, I'm bringing my fabric, I'm bringing my sewing tools, I'm bringing, like, because it was the things that I'm going to use.
That was the discussion we really did have. It's like, those things are what we've been building and collecting and stuff. I have camera gear that like I've had since like high school that I still use to this day.
Yeah.
And like, we still have organized like stuff and wires and things, because that's all stuff that we've collected that is super useful for us.
Like, what was it, the first week in our apartment when we moved out here, I was sewing curtains for our bathroom because
Yeah.
our bathroom didn't have curtains. Fabric that was already in my stash. I didn't have to go buy fabric. Had the machines, had the thread, had everything I needed. Was like, oh, this bathroom window needs curtains. I can make them.
Yeah. Well, that was like the first place we moved into was we made the whole corner of the living room our workspace.
It was like a third of the living room,
Yeah,
if not
because
more.
like we made sure we had like all the printers connected.
Again, we set up my sewing table that I had brought from California. It was like the 2 pieces of furniture I
like
brought.
the computer was connected to like the 3D printers that we already had established. Like all these pieces. Actually, the 3D printer I bought when we came out here because I got a good deal on Black Friday. That I forgot that I didn't have that when we moved. That was something I bought when we moved out here.
I don't remember.
But it was still like we built this stuff up, and we did a lot of like building outside on our patio. Like any type of like stuff where we're using glues or anything went outside on the patio.
Spray paint.
So we didn't get anything on carpet. We spray painted. I painted a couple people's guns at that point. I painted some helmets. I painted a bike. I didn't have I had all my painting equipment, but I had none of like the like space or any of the stuff that I had previously before. And so like, oh, you can paint this, because they like saw stuff I did in the past, and I'm like, yeah, sure. And like,
Figure it out.
And so yeah, we just went for it, kind of
We
thing.
built a light table for my like preschool classroom.
Yeah, we did that. And so that's
on a little like concrete patio that we had outside of our apartment.
This whole episode, like it drives the point of like building your toolbox, building your arsenal of what you have, and it's not something you build overnight. It's not something you can.
But it's something that you can fit if you want to, that you can fit into whatever space, budget, time that you have.
This is one that goes back to, and what excites me about the future of what we're doing here is the people we are meeting at shows, the people that we are having conversations with, they are doing it on minimal things for not all of them, but for a good chunk of them. It's like in their apartment kitchen, they're tie-dyeing stuff. In their like apartment balcony, they're spray painting or like doing stuff on their balcony. And
in their bedroom, in their shared apartment, they have like a desk set up, and that's what they have, but they're doing what they do.
And it's what they love to do. And so that's what like really, again, goes back to what inspires me, and seeing people in those situations. And it's not like, again, we go back to it. We are not like set up like a crazy professional, like high-end studio workshop kind of thing that you see in these like big movie making studio behind the scenes looking stuff. We're on like IKEA furniture, thrifted,
mostly thrifted,
thrifted stuff, and make it work. And it's taken time to get to that point. And so that's the biggest thing to realize. Like, none of this happens overnight with anybody that's making this stuff. There is no overnight success. And the people who say they are, it's not true. They've been doing it for a long time. And like, to think other artists just got there. No, it took a long time to get to that point. It's taken us a long time to get to this point, which we're super excited to be at this point, because I was telling Christy earlier today, it was really fun. I had a friend over yesterday. I had Cam, who we talked about at the beginning. He was working on some of his screen printed stuff down here. But he was working in our kitchen basement area where the screen printer is. I was working over here on a couple printed projects. Christy was in her office sewing, and like there was this intermingle that happened every once in a while where like we just happened to cross paths.
Yep,
it's like, hey, what's going on? Or what are you doing? And it's really fun. But like by the end of the day, the day felt so fulfilled because there were so many projects that got done on all kinds of different fronts, all kinds of different. And then today it's the same exact thing happened today as well. Like we were like just kind of going over what we did. We had some stuff prepping for a show. You were playing around with some resin jewelry. We were we're filming a podcast. I was packing up camera gear. I have a photo shoot. We're just gonna have some fun with tomorrow with a friend and everything. And so like getting all that stuff, and then by the end of the day, it is you feel fulfilled with all the different things, and you kind of look back and you go, how the hell did I do all of this stuff today with like very little that we have in that sense? And excuse me, you just make it work. And that's the fun part about it. So yeah, I don't know. I think that kind of covers what I wanted to kind of cover today with tools, and then what kind of sparks that drive with you. Anything else you want to kind of go over with stuff?
No, I don't think so. I think that's the perfect way to introduce our next episodes with some guests and learn about their methods and what inspires them, and yeah.
All right.
Learn from our friends.
So guys, thank you guys for joining us on this episode of Always Making. Thank you guys who have followed us on social media. Winners of our contest that we had on our Instagram page, we've reached out to them already. They'll be getting a prize package. We are going to be sending out a couple of the t-shirts we screen printed, a couple stickers, a couple stuff. Stay tuned on our social media at Steadfast Rebels to kind of see what other stuff we're going to be doing. We make stuff here for people, for you guys and everything. So we enjoy the idea of like sharing that with you. So definitely follow us on social media, subscribe to the video, comment on your guys' like tool that you first purchased, like with your hard-earned money and everything.
Yeah. What's the first thing you purchased on, like, with your own money?
Your own money. And then what's that tool that like you are surprised it's like in your arsenal, but you could not live without it, kind of thing.
Yeah. And what inspires you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. That's 3 questions.
I know.
All right. Go do your homework, guys. Thanks for joining us, guys. We'll see you guys on the next episode. Bye.
Bye.